Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Incognito Mode podcast. I'm Ava Jones. As you may recall, we last left off with the Burnout Economy, Part 1, with behavioral scientist Skye King. Skye has been invaluable and a great addition to this topic, as well as a good friend, and so it gives me pleasure to announce this is Part 2. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. I know we're all gearing up for Christmas, and hopefully everyone is feeling good and not sick or battling colds, as I was, so I apologize. But we're back. So here is part 2 of Burnout Economy. Enjoy. Maybe it's the people managers who are going, okay, wait a minute, and they're blowing the whistle on this, and they're getting with the CEOs and going, hey, we have all these employee engagement initiatives, and we've all have seen all the apps and all the things and all the perks and all the points and all the kudos, but here's the problem. So they're still burned out. So what do you want to do? Because this isn't really working the way we thought it might if we just threw a bunch of money at it. And sometimes that money has to come in the form of PTO, days off.
Yes.
Like you said,
better project management, or using
Fridays.
RACI charts, or you're right. There isn't one size fits all. And even on the individual level, that's going to vary. So having access to, a wellness, well-being app, like that might really work for folks, providing funding for, wellness, like going to the gym or whatnot, might really work for other people. Other people having autonomy is another sort of burnout prevention technique. The more autonomy you have over your schedule and the things that you do can be really powerful for reducing that, right? Like, so you're able to go to your doctor's appointment in the middle of the day without much ish from your company. So that is going to be really variable depending on the people involved. And what I like to think about it as is organizations having a lot of tools in their toolkit. And I think it doesn't even have to start on the whole organizational level, Ava, like even just an individual leader or a manager listening to this podcast who decides they want to make a shift both for themselves and their team. That can have a huge impact and can serve as a model for how we can be just as productive, if not more, how we can have fewer sick days, how we can, be having good client interactions because we're using the same skills with our clients as we are with our internal teams, if that's part of the dynamic. And I think that what we see from a change management perspective is those smaller proof points are what can make a big impact on a broader sort of corporate team. So I would encourage anyone listening, to connect with you and me and others and to explore that, because you can have an impact both on yourself and your immediate team, tomorrow, talking about some of these things.
Absolutely. It's so interesting too, because something else I was thinking about, just as a quick little side note, is, if burnout truly is baked into the system or the culture of your company, then telling people to practice mindfulness, it kind of feels like handing out umbrellas when there's a hurricane going on outside. So I just, I just hope
so true
that these leaders are really getting some takeaway from this. But I do want to bring it down to a bit of a personal level.
Yeah.
And, everyone listening probably knows this feeling very, very well. I'm sure everyone has had some relatability during this conversation. So how does burnout show up in ways that people might not yet recognize before they hit the proverbial wall, right?
Oh, I love this question, Ava, because there are so many early warning signs for stress and other things before you get to the burnout state. And just so listeners know, like full-blown burnout is this stress disorder, right? It's chronic, it's unmanaged, workplace and life pressure, and it's more than just being tired. You're feeling depleted and detached, and you are collapsing your sense of purpose and impact and all this. And, there's a great World Health Organization classification around this. It's sort of this what we've talked about, the systemic dysfunction, not this individual weakness. But where you might start to explore some of those early warning signs of stress, and this is one of the things I cover in my burnout boot camps, is how you recognize what those things are. And they include, they might go across the spectrum. So maybe you're seeing that you're more easily frustrated or irritable, or maybe you are, noticing some areas where you're feeling less cooperative, maybe like for me, I might start to get a little snarky, and some of those early warning signs cut across 5 different areas. It's physical, emotional, spiritual, social, and cognitive. So physically, when you're stressed, think about, well, what do you start to feel? Are you maybe getting a headache? Some people get high blood pressure or stomach problems. For me, I notice if my eye starts to twitch a little, I'm like, oh, hi, what's going on here? Pay attention. Like your body, your physical system, your nervous system is pulling the fire alarm in these early stages. Emotionally, yeah, maybe you're frustrated, maybe you're angry, maybe you're getting anxious about something. From a spiritual standpoint, and this is not about religion, it's just sort of those broader feelings. Are you feeling a lack of purpose or a lack of connection? Do you feel empty inside or alienated? And if you're, pulling away from your social circles, or maybe you're being a little grouchy even when you're with them, or you're just kind of withdrawing. And I've been through burnout stages where I just completely withdrew from my social group. I was like, they don't want to deal with me right now. I'm just like, ugh, like I'm too much. And then there are even some very real cognitive sort of early warning signs people see, like if you're missing details, if you're really struggling to decide something, if you aren't able to concentrate like you used to, or maybe you just, we've all done you read a paragraph and you don't remember what it was. So you go back and reread it again and you just sort of brain fog and maybe you're a little disengaged. Those are all early warning signs. And what's great is that the earlier you're able to recognize, first identify what those are for yourself. And I have people kind of take a little ponder of that and say well, what does this look like for you? Everybody's going to kind of have a different map of what these early signs are. And then once you recognize them, that's where you have an opportunity to intervene early. And there are loads of things you can do, both as an individual, but then even conversations you can have with, organizations, teams, others to try to address them. So I'm going to stop there. That was a lot.
So, no, I actually love that. And, that kind of leads us into something else I wanted to mention for the listeners, because this is important. And I think it needs to be stated, so you guys obviously, well, maybe you can tell a little bit with me. I'm not sure if you guys can tell yet. But obviously I don't sound exactly the same as I normally do today. I am a little under the weather, and, Skye here, I'm sure she will do so if she's comfortable sharing. She's going through a little bit of recovery herself right now. And it's about how much guilt, we still feel when our bodies are kind of slowing us down. So, for example, I'm sitting here with my tea and my cold medicine, but I know I have an event at Techstars tonight, and I know that I'm going to go, even though technically, should I be resting? Yeah, probably, but I know I'm going to go. And it's interesting because, and Skye, certainly please share about your experience if you're comfortable doing so. I would love to know, why is rest so hard to justify? And how has your own perspective on burnout changed lately with what you're going through?
Yeah, so I'm happy to share. So I am day 16 post-op for having a number of thankfully benign, but very large tumors removed from my abdomen. And I was telling Ava earlier, I knew that this conversation was going to take energy, and I wanted to show up in a certain way. And so I think I was initially inclined. There were a couple of calls I had potentially wanted to be on today. There's some new AI tools I've been exploring, and there is a Substack I'm trying to finish writing. But I put pause on all of those and instead took a nap today, Ava, so I would be fresh for our conversation, because I've been mapping my energy during this recovery, and it's just, I get it. It's hard for me. I am a go, go, go kind of person, and being patient as a patient. And I did look up the etymology of that yesterday because I was like, I am not good at being patient and waiting for my body to heal because, there's a whole renovation going on inside, and I can't lift more than 10 pounds for a couple of weeks, and they don't want me, even vertical for too long right now. I'm supposed to rest and regroup. And I think it's something we have an opportunity to practice, Ava. That sort of rest and relaxation, even when we need it, can be difficult. And I've met a lot of entrepreneurs, especially, right? Like if I'm not working, if I'm not pushing, if I'm not hustling, I'm not paying rent that month. So yeah. it's, I think for me, it's about the perspective and saying, all right, what are the decisions I need to make today? And what are the sort of short-term, mid-term, and long-term impact of those? For me, I thankfully have read some stories about people who did push it too soon after abdominal surgery, like what I got, and then their recovery took longer. And so for me, that story, those stories are a incentive for me to focus and force my time here to rest and regroup and relax, because I'm here for the marathon, not the sprint.
There you go.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Marathon, not sprint. But I got to tell you, other times, I might make a different decision based upon the variables and other things I have in front of me. Like you tonight might be like, oh, this is going to be so interesting and so important. Even if I'm only 50% Ava, I'll tell you, Ava, even if you're only at 50%, that's still 100% of other people. So
right.
It's going to be, and you're going to wear a mask, and you're going to take it easy on yourself. And maybe you're going to decide, tomorrow is a little more chill day for you to recover. But yeah, and let's have some empathy. I mean, that's really big. Having that self-compassion, We're going to do things. Sometimes it's the right thing to do. Sometimes it's not, and we learn and we shift and change the next time. But giving ourselves some grace to make some mistakes and to, make the best decisions we can at the time. But if the end result isn't ideal, to not beat ourselves too much about it, not beat ourselves up about it.
I'm so glad you said that, because to kind of wind it down for the listeners and get them to their, I always like to give them takeaways, and we've given them a lot. But what I want to do, because you are the go-to with this question, honestly, and I feel like if anyone does happen at the end when you plug all your stuff, if they do ever look to book time with you, I know this will come up, but I'll just go ahead and ask it for the room, as it were, right? So do you see people fearing judgment from colleagues or leadership if they openly acknowledge burnout? And how do we change that culture? Of course, we can't sit here and come up with the full framework for how that could happen, but are there maybe some small ways that we can start to change that culture?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, let me think about that for a minute. What could we say? I definitely will say, I feel like burnout has both a stigma and a badge of honor component to it, which are sort of diametrically opposed, both of which are not great. So I'm like, what is the thing that's in the middle? I think that, it may be about repositioning our psychological, physical, other sort of needs in a way. And I think the first step is really naming it, because we know language can help us both regulate emotion and gives us agency, but it also, we can shift from saying, I'm just overwhelmed or I'm burned out, to maybe positioning it more as like, I'm in a burnout state, or I'm, experiencing burnout. So it's not like part of our identity, but it's like a external thing that is the system that we're in. But that then would also indicate to me that that's something that we can change or disrupt or, shift a little bit. So yeah, I'm just trying to think. Name it, I think, quietly, maybe even rebuilding some of the boundaries that we need to decrease our burnout. So, and these aren't like putting up walls. This is just how we tap into our different patterns of energy. So it might be something really simple like blocking out our time during lunch. Or maybe we have our own internal rule, or we let people know, like, I'm not going to be checking Slack after 7 p.m.
Right.
Or, it can even be as simple as just taking a pause before we say yes to something new. Or like you're in that, like, manager or leader or client or somebody's asking you to do something, just taking a pause and saying, hey, let me go back and check the priorities and see what I can shift around for us to focus on this next. And that sort of then at least subtly indicates like, hey, I'm going to have to shift other things or deprioritize things in order to do this, and just sort of quietly kind of building things in. I tell you, I have some, clients and like some of the teams and like workshops I do where there's even an exercise, Ava, where it's like, what is our little burnout script or a little code we're going to use? So like, you come up with a phrase you have in your pocket. I'm at capacity right now, but I can revisit this next week.
You know what? I've
been want to give this the energy it deserves. Can we set a time to discuss, Monday maybe? So
I feel like I've been using, I'm at my productivity or my, I'm at my professional bandwidth. That's what I've been, that's what I've been using lately.
Yeah. No, and I think that is a polite, professional, yet firm way for us to establish some of those boundaries. And I think that, those types of things can help. I mean, the last thing I guess I would say in this section with the kind of subtle things we can do as individuals, right? These are things we can do, Ava, even in a broken system. So, kind of those rebuilding some of those boundaries, but even some of I call them micro restorative rituals. So these are those kind of tiny breaks you might take during the day that can help to reset your nervous system and sort of get some of that cognitive recovery, like when you're in overload mode. And these are as simple as like a 5-minute reset break. There's a lot of great research out of Japan and elsewhere that even just looking at a tree or even a picture of a tree for 5 minutes decreases your cortisol and adrenaline levels and other things. Box breathing, which is like, you breathe 4 breaths in, hold it for 4 breaths out, and then hold it for 4. And humming, I was just reading some studies about this recently. Humming for 5 minutes activates the vagus nerve, which helps you to get into a calm state. So even just humming along to music for 5 minutes can have this sort of restorative effect. And, there's lots of little tools and tips and tricks like that we can learn as individuals that help us even when we're in a dysfunctional system. Now, that might not be enough to address all of the issues we encounter in those sort of, more toxic environments, but it at least gives you a locus of control over the things that you can do. And then for many people, that might be enough. And those might be tools or tips that they bring to their teams or that they manage up and bring to their leaders and others, just in small ways. And I think a lot of it, at the end of the day, Ava, is also modeling that behavior for others. So especially if you're in a manager or leadership position, people seeing when you go on vacation, you actually go on vacation and you're not answering work calls. And I tell people, like, go somewhere foreign without phone service if you can, if that's something you can afford, or go to like a national park where phone service or something is bad, and actually take that break, model that behavior, put on that out of office. Don't, like I was mentioning earlier, don't respond to emails off hours. Maybe you respond, and then I love the feature where you can schedule when it goes out to people, because I don't want them to be looking, unless it's something truly urgent, right? We need to save our capacity and resilience for those times when we do need to surge, when there is a product launch that's on the line and we need to really, focus, and, we might need to work nights and weekends. But if we've done these restorative practices, and if we've had a system that has supported our, resilience and well-being beforehand, we're much better able and equipped to jump into those timeframes when we need to really push and, have that burst. So I'm hoping we can, continue to work toward creating that as a more normative model, and, be not forgetting the best practices we've learned over the decades around what helps to support people in their lives.
No, absolutely. And, that I love it, because you literally answered my last two questions, which I love.
Oh, yay!
So anyone that was looking for tips and tricks, if you just missed it, go back. There was a lot there that you can use if you suspect that you might be in burnout, probably about 90% of us probably are.
Well, but, Ava, I always joke, if you're asking the question, hey, I wonder if I'm in burnout, you probably are getting close. So
you're probably there.
So just go with it, learn some of the tools and techniques. When
people say, am I the problem? You probably are if you're asking, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so pervasive. It's more than 50% of our global workforce is in active burnout, according to a number of different studies out there. So it's a little disconcerting, but that's why having conversations like this, and being real about what the challenges are, and then, step by step working toward a different future for ourselves. And
absolutely,
I really believe it's possible.
Skye, we're going to have to do more podcast episodes together, because the flow is just perfect. You literally just tied in what I was going to say.
Oh,
which is, burnout. Clearly, the takeaway for everyone is that it's a system problem. So what we should really all strive to do is figure out what a better system looks like for tomorrow. Now, the thing about that is that's needed yesterday, but of course, I think, these companies, we've given them some takeaways to think about. And of course, we know there are more granular resources that they can utilize to start to kind of break down, okay, what can we do individually? If my team size is 500 people, what I might do to help prevent burnout is going to be far different than what someone might do if their team size is 25. And so with that in mind, I would love to transition, Skye, to your work. Now, you're doing some really cool things with Geode Lifeworks, and workshops and events you have coming up even. And so I would love for you to please tell all the listeners all the things, plug your stuff, let them know so they can go find you.
Oh my gosh, Ava. Well, I think the first thing would be for people to follow Geode Lifeworks on LinkedIn, if that's your place of focus. We also recently launched a YouTube channel that's at Rebel Optimist. So I call myself the Rebel Optimist. So we have tips and tools there. And check out our website. We try to post the different events and things we have. We have a in-person reset sort of creative retreat coming up in early January. I mentioned we do ongoing burnout boot camps. I have a number of sort of practical AI labs and other things that are going to be coming up. Again, I'm focusing on recovery right now. So most of those are going to be focused, and the next round of them will be happening in January and beyond. And I think the other component I would mention is we do have a consulting side of our business where we work with organizations across these different issues. So they might be looking to deploy AI within their organization. So how do they do that in a human-centric way and use a lot of the tools for change management? I also do a number of these, I call them micro leadership labs. So those are where you can help your teams to develop the sort of skills they need from a leadership standpoint to be empathetic, productive, focused leaders. I think a lot of times, especially in middle management, we miss a lot of the resources and tools. And I call them labs, just so you know, a lot of my stuff are called labs because you work when you come to them. It is not just me talking at a screen. It is actual like exercises and work and things you're trying. And, you know, we might have share out rooms where you're collaborating with somebody on something because we know from a behavior science standpoint, if we actually are working together, we're more likely to remember and take those lessons with us.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and I can send you the details and other things, Ava, if people want to connect with me directly. I love chatting about these topics. And yeah, just, you know, my goal is I want to use my creativity and optimism to help these leaders and managers and the change agents of the world, you know, not just do what they do, you know, better and faster, but to thrive while they're doing it. So
Right.
we got to create that sort of future together. And I'm excited about it.
I would very much agree. I am as well. And I for sure will be attending some of those events. And yes, I'll make sure we get those resources out.
Yeah.
And, you know, Skye, I think this has been such a productive conversation. Thank you so much for this. I think you really needed to hear that burnout isn't a personal flaw. It's more like the canary in a coal mine for how we've built our work systems and really how we've approached, I'm going to say, the American corporate culture. And unfortunately, it's becoming more of a worldwide culture because of tech. But I think everyone here can find something meaningful that they can do or something they can put into practice, whether you're an employee, an entrepreneur, whether you're a leader or you're a people manager or you're a CEO or you're an executive. Everyone should be thinking about ways that you can incorporate these tools into your organization, because if you don't, and you guys can go read the studies and Skye can even give you the stats, we will hit a wall very, very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and again, you're so right, Ava. Burnout recovery and focusing on this isn't selfish, it's strategic. And we know the cure for burnout isn't about wellness perks, right? It is that structural redesign.
Yes, absolutely. Right. See, you guys go follow Skye. And Skye, thank you so much. Take care of yourself on the rest of your recovery journey. We will talk to Skye again soon, I am sure. And for everyone listening, I hope you enjoy it. The Incognito Mode podcast is produced by Ava Jones, me. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen. New episodes drop every week.